It's now time to dive into non-biased and clean conversations with Uplifting Buzz Podcasts with your hosts, Gary Johnson and Marcus Grove. Why wait? Let's dive on in.
Well, we're glad to be back for another episode of Uplifting Buzz Podcast with your host, Gary Johnson, and my wonderful co-host, Mr. Marcus Grove. And this show is being presented to you by Buzz Report Media and Uplift Mobile. And we're honored to have each and every one of you to join in with us on today. We invite you to continue to like, share our social media pages and all of our podcast episodes with your audience and families and friends, so they can also be up to date on the podcast and our episodes. We have some interesting topics today that we're going to continue to dive into. But as always, just a friendly reminder that this is a non-biased show where non-biased conversations happen. We do not take sides with anyone or another. We just bring the facts and have a clean, non-biased dialogue about what's happening and what's important to you. That being said, let's dive right on into today's episode. And Mr. Grove, what's up, man? What's going on with you?
Goodness, it's a lot of things that's going on with me now that pretty much I'm trying to stay current on all of the happenings along the Gulf Coast and particularly Mobile County. And it's a lot going on. You can't, if you really paid attention to everything that's going around you in close proximity, it's tough to actually stay in the more nationalized news.
A judge today hearing arguments.
Talking so much about what's going on locally. So I'm excited to get into some of these topics, and as always, glad to be here on Uplift and Buzz podcast.
All right, yes, sir, and same here, man. I'm telling you, like I said on Tuesday, every time you turn around, there's something new that's happening, and update that we just keep on coming, and we got to keep up. Just as they are coming our way, and that one, it's one that we've been following is the Mobile County, the Mobile City Council District 2 race, which they had a hearing on this morning in that case, but no decision ruling has been handed down as of yet. Not to say it's not going to come today, not to say it's not going to come tomorrow, but I can say now that the hearing has been held, a ruling is on the way. And then again, that may be another day. All parties may be called back to the courtroom to have more questioning and another hearing. We don't know how this is going to play out, but we do know that the hearing has happened, and a ruling is expected soon in this case. Also, the other breaking news is that we are in a federal government shutdown. The government has officially shut down as of 2 days ago on October 1st at 12 a.m. The Republicans are blaming the Democrats for shutting our government down, saying they voted to shut the government down. However, they don't want to negotiate and compromise and be bipartisan in this matter. They want the whole piece of the pie, and not extend a piece of the pie to the American people. So that being said, man, it's not the Democrats alone, because they have made it known that their doors are open and they're willing to negotiate and compromise on behalf of the American people, not political parties, but on behalf of the American people, and that's where it should be. So I don't think it's the Democrats' fault that the government shut down, because I said on Tuesday, and you may have heard it on multiple other outlets, is that Republicans control all three branches of the government, from the president, from the White House on down to the Senate and the House, and also the Supreme Court is going to throw that in on the judicial side. But they can do what they want to do. They got the power to do what they want to do. They've been doing that all along since Donald Trump being in office. They'll continue to do that on things that they want to do it with. And when it comes down to spending money, they want to act like they physical conservative. They don't want to be at fault. When Donald Trump was elected and when this House was elected, there was not a clear demand for one party rule. It was split down the middle. And the results remain the same. We have a divided country. But more so now, we have people that's more hungry for change than ever. Because they're not satisfied with the track that America is currently on, the leadership that we currently have. The outlook is different from what they have hoped for, or what they may have been promised. So we're dealing with a lot of things, man, in this country. With all of that being said, Mr. Grove, I'm going to let you just dive in on that District 2 seat and enlighten us on what happened on this morning.
Well, what happened on this morning is still a mystery to those individuals that did not attend. I'm sure there are news outlets out there that did attend, to my knowledge. The Buzz Report Media and also Uplift Mobile did not attend. But it was just a hearing to speak about the motion to dismiss. Now, like I said, I always say that I'm not a political or a law expert. I do dive into politics a lot, but I'm not a law expert. But I can say that I highly, highly doubt that the case was dismissed. I mean, you have blows being punched and all up until after we spoke on Tuesday. A brief was filed by Samantha Ingram and basically clarifying some things. Basically throwing punches, right? Another brief was filed on yesterday by the William Carroll camp, basically denouncing some of the things that Samantha Ingram said. So it was blows being punched all the way up until the motion to the dismissal hearing on today, which, even though judges do have assistants, the judge is just one person. Even though they may have one assistant, they're just, in totality, it's just two people, right? And so I highly doubt that the case was dismissed on this morning due to the fact that, on one hand, I highly just think that the case is way more important than a dismissal. In addition, you have blows being punched yesterday and when we got off the podcast on Tuesday. So, the judge actually has a lot more cases other than this case going on. And so for her to, Judge Hambright, to look at all the material that was filed on yesterday and then on Tuesday and try to come to a conclusion, it's just like I've always said, it's going to last longer than we anticipated.
Yes, all these briefs being filed and going back and forth. I think as everyone is reporting, this is really going to come down to which law has the most effect and weight in this case and in this matter, and that's the Zagabe Act and then the state legislation. Let me say this, and this is my projection since now we are in the hearing portion of this case. This is going to come down to what local law says. I know we have the state law, and the state supersedes local. This is going to come down to the Zagabe Act. that was passed by the Mobile City Council years ago to protect the integrity of elections here in the city of Mobile. And the reason I say that is because if Judge Hambright throws out the Zachary Act in this case, and the Zachary Act was created to protect the city of Mobile's elections, then the protection of the local elections here in the city of Mobile will be questionable. That law will also be questionable. So it goes back to the Zachary Act. And I think in this case, the deciding factor is going to be the Zachary Act. That's going to have the weight in this case. It's a local law affecting local elections. And that what matters. She's not running for state office. I understand that mobility within the state of Alabama, but this is going to come down to the city of Mobile and what Mobile has said about its local election. I may be wrong. I'm not a legal expert, but just looking at the way the laws are written and the language or what it speaks to, that's where I'm going.
Mm-hmm. I see that as well.
I feel that William Carey has a leg up, even though if he do have a leg up, that don't mean that he's going to get his seat back. That don't mean he's going to be reelected. Number two, he's still coming out of office because he lost the seat. He was not reelected. The certification of the votes have already taken place by the city council. So now, if Judge Hambright dismisses this case with prejudice on the fact that the Zachary Act does stand and orders a new election, that means this election would go. This would go into maybe February of 2026 at the latest, because you have to give a 30-day. Well, I mean, or then again, the mayor, the new incoming mayor, or the Senator Stips could even appoint somebody. Well, he can't appoint nobody right now because Carroll's term is not actually up. He's still sitting councilman until November 3rd. But Spiro can actually appoint a new councilman that can serve out the remaining of the term in come November 3rd. That have never been elected. That's one option. Two, he could be generous and say, well, let the people speak who they want. We're calling it a special election. Then you have to open the window of qualifying 30 days after the announcement of the election. And then that may last for like 5 to 10 days. And then after that, you serve notice. And then you have to set the election dates. At least 60 to 90 days from that date. But you have, then the candidate start raising money and campaign all over again. Then we get to have the general election. Then we have a runoff election. But the people of District 2 may come together and say, we only just need 2 candidates to run.
Mm-hmm.
Let the best man win, or let the best woman win. We don't need all these people in the race. Let's get this over quickly. So there won't be a runoff, and that can happen right at the end of January, first part of February. And then if we go into a runoff, we're looking at to March, the first of March or mid-March, During that, I mean, we'll be during this time. Will we get people now? But let's point this out too. Now, I really want to get into this, and I want people to see all facets of this. Now that we have all these possible scenarios coming at us now, any moment now. If this election, if a new election is to happen, Mr. Grove, do you know when this election is going to happen? In the middle of autograph season. In the middle of autograph season.
Mm.
And do you really think people are going to be really interested in going and vote in the middle of Mardi Gras? See, the biggest, I mean, Mardi Gras is so big here, people is focused on Mardi Gras. You know,
Boom.
so you think people really going to show? Now, that's going to be a really, really low turnout. Unless you got some really, really, really good candidates going to really, really push the vote. But this going to be a really, really low turnout. And Carol do stand a chance to win re-election. Now, Gary, is you saying that this was all strategized? Hey, it may be possibly. You know, I don't know. We don't know how the jury gonna rule in the first place. But I'm just throwing all these scenarios out there to look at. We got a rough road ahead coming up for District 2.
Yes. Yes. In the actual amendments that were filed by Samantha Ingram on Tuesday and by William Carroll on Wednesday, they did mention House Bill or the Act 2003-400, which is legislature package that was signed by the House bill or the League of the sessions, the Alabama legislature sessions during the 2003 season. And it's interesting that they talk about that because originally they're talking about the 2012 general election law that was passed. And so it's interesting that they're now talking about House bill that was passed in 2003. And in particular, in the House bill, they do talk about municipal election law amendments and how that the league bill introduced, which was ratified, would revise municipal election procedures. Now, in that, it talks about how things should be printed, how ballot box and voting machines should be utilized, when and how the appointees can jump onto ballots, but it doesn't, and I'm just looking it over, it doesn't say anything about the amount of days or that a time frame within a year or 90 days. It doesn't say anything about any type of time frame whatsoever. It just talks about like more procedural type thing. So I'm interested in seeing exactly what they're the boxing match is referring to. So
Yeah, me too. Yeah, Mr. Gold, this is very interesting, man. But now, I kind of look at it as I was thinking about this last night, waking up this morning, saying, "Well, man, they are now in court, and we can get an answer to what's really going to happen with District 2." Carol was raising the point, and Reggie Hill was raising the point all along that she voted in Georgia over within the past year, and like I said, if this case hinges down onto the Zogby Act, you can't vote in and be a resident of Georgia and Mobile at the same time.
Right.
Now the state law gives you a little leverage because the state law says 3 months to live into the district, 90 days. But not the Zogby Act. The Zogby said 365 days.
Mm-hmm.
So you voted in Georgia, whatever part of Georgia that may have been, it was outside of the state of Alabama. It was outside of Mobile within a year. The Zogby Act, is not on your side. So where do Hambright go? You know, and I brought a point up Tuesday because this case can present a challenge to future elections and how future elections are decided when it comes down to an issue like this. As we know that Ingram is not running for a state office. She's only running for a local city council office. So I'm just trying to see how Ingram attorneys would tie that state election law into the Zachary Act, or how are they trying to say the state law overrules the Zachary Act? I'm just trying to say, how do they get Judge Hambright, and also if it goes on to into an appeal mode, how do you get these appellate court judges to say, oh, the Zachary Act or the City Mobile just don't matter? It's voided. I mean, they just passed that law for the fun of it. I mean, how do you get the court to say that? So I don't see, at this point, I'm just being honest, I don't see favoritism on Ingram's side.
Yeah. Now, I think that one of the things that they may be hinging on is the fact that judges rule in two different ways. And some of them rule in a mixture of those two different ways, but a lot of them rule in two different ways. And one of those is by interpretation of the law based on, the constituents' feelings, based on the local air or local flair in the air. But more traditional judges judge based on the literal meanings of the words. And I think one way that Samantha Ingram's camp is looking at the laws is not in more interpretative style, but more of the literal meaning of the words. And when it comes down to a lot of these different laws, especially now that I'm looking at the Alabama House Bill Act 2003-400 municipal election law amendments, the first word is the first sentence is, this league bill would revise municipal election procedures. Okay, so even though it doesn't say anything about the time frame into which a person should be in that district or in the state, I think that when they hinge upon the tying into the 2012 general election law, it may say words along those lines, that it revises municipal election procedures. And so I think that without exclusions, to the rules or to the laws in effect, they're looking at the literal words and interpreting, okay, well, this says explicitly, because it's implicit and explicit. And if it says explicitly, words like revision of municipal election procedures, then it would try to persuade the judge, hey, this means all municipal procedures in the state of Alabama. And then the judge will have to go back and try to figure out, well, did those individuals who ruled at that time mean for this to be for all in perpetuity? What do they mean by that? Do they mean the past, or, are they referring to the days and time frame, and so if the judge is more interpretative, then Judge Hambright would go into deliberating on those grounds. Some judges in particularly what we call more traditional, or you can even classify them as lazy, but that wouldn't be correct. It would be more traditional, and that fact that they look at the words and say, "Yep, that's what it means," instead of interpreting. Because more traditional in the past, they looked at the literal meanings of the words versus the interpretative type of nature. So, in a lot of ways, it's definitely up into how the judge looks at law and case law, and the persuasion that's done on Samantha Ingram and her camp's side.
Right. So, man, it's head scratching with this to try to decipher uh what's going to happen. Um, Honestly, Mr. Grove, where do you see this going? I know we had already. We have our speculation. I gave you my viewpoint on where I see it going. We all talked about this for the last month. We know what each of the laws says. Which the two that's being presented in this case. We know the track record of Ingram from where, a year ago from her voting in Georgia, actual voting, having properties there, maybe 3 or 4 properties there, businesses there, then moving back to Mobile, buying property here, moving back and, qualifying to run for office. We know Carrie, he always been here, a local business owner, involved in a lot of civic organizations, so forth. We know all of this type stuff. But on this other hand, in this legal challenge, where do you see this case going?
Well, I think that the truth is going to prevail, and also the darkness always comes to light. All those different cliche type phrases that we hear over time are and do hold some type of merit, right? So the reality is that the amount of properties that Samantha Ingram owns is enormous, right? From Mobile all the way to Georgia. And so when looking at the amount of properties and looking at what she actually owns and going into the history of everything, I would say that, from the research that has been done, in reality, she's never been a city, a member of District 2. She's only recently became a member of District 2 for the purpose of beating William Carroll, which was her prerogative. With that being said, I think that the Zogby Act was written in a time, archaic time in the 80s, that may be looked upon as something archaic, but it does not, it's not in contention with the general election law. It's just the general election law was made to set a standard, which the Zogby Act is not, or does not put the general election law at contention. It just amplifies the amount of time that a member has to be in the district and in the state. So I don't think the general election law is the right course of action or a deciding factor that will go against the Zogby Act. In addition, for a sitting Mobile judge to go against this type of law in that type of way, I think in a lot of ways would be damaging for her and her career. So with that being said, I think in every single corner, and this is notwithstanding the fact that people just don't want William Carroll back in office. I just don't see Samantha Ingram winning this court case. Now, when it goes a little bit further than that, and if William Carroll will be back in or how that even plays out, I think you gave a great illustration of how that would play out in the future. But as far as this court case, I see Samantha Ingram losing the court case, but I don't see the judge just automatically putting William Carroll back into the run the ballot or office. It would definitely, like you said, have to go into an additional election. But if the judge finds that, hey, Samantha Ingram, you should not have been on the ballot in the first place, then it could get ugly. It can get bad, because, if in some way, which I think that it has a very small percentage of it going this way, but if in some way they find that that Samantha Ingram knew she should not have been on the ballot, then it can get ugly. But like I said at the very beginning, in my opinion, Samantha Ingram has never been a member of District 2 in the last 20, 30 years. She only became a member of District 2 for the purpose of beating William Carroll, which was her prerogative, which she did purchase the home on Texas Street prior to this whole 12 months thing. But the fact that she voted in Georgia in the last 12 months voids the fact that she purchased that home in Mobile in 2023, more than 12 months that was needed. So my thing is, if she purchased the home more than 12 months and her intentions was to stay in Georgia, then she had to have known of the Zogby Act and the 12 months rule. Because if her intentions was to stay in Georgia, where's her purchasing that home on Texas Street in District 2? So I do believe that she had to have known of the Zogby Act, and her intent was to come back to run for the Zogby Act and purchase the home way in advance. But now the fact that she made a mistake and voted in Georgia and she thought people was not going to find out, now she's trying to figure out other ways around that mistake, which I don't think.
Yeah. Now like I say, it all depends on when a new election is ordered for this seat. Would it be ordered the first Tuesday or the second Tuesday in January? Would it be ordered the second Tuesday or the last Tuesday in February? We don't know when. We don't even know when the election is going to be. A key point is the longer they push it out, that gives her more time to become a legal resident of the district, and she possibly can run again. Am I right or wrong? But I think we lost Mr. Grove. But this can actually create an opportunity on the backside where Ingram can actually run again. Puts her into that window as being a qualified resident according to when she bought the property in 2024. And puts her inside of that 1 year window. And then it becomes still a loss for Mr. Carroll if he decides to seek office again and she turn out her voters again because she's back on the ballot as a qualified candidate. Because I don't think Carroll and his attorneys have asked the judge to bar Ingram from running. They just asked to disqualify her from this election and disgrace from running as a candidate due to the qualifications. But she can come back and meet those qualifications and be back on the ballot. Another thing in the news is the government shutdown. The government shutdown is in full effect. And on top of that, many of our federal employees may be losing their jobs because President Trump has promised he's going to terminate or lay off thousands of federal employees due to this government shutdown. And we have already lost a lot of our government employees. I mean, a ton of our government employees due to this leadership. And if it's no fault of their own, I mean, just because he didn't like them and he wanted to get rid of them. But a lot of our government agencies are going to be affected by this, and the services that they provide to the American people is going to be affected in the long run if this could persist and proceed to continue. And the Republicans are not trying to negotiate with Democrats to stop this madness and get over it, and let's get back to business and get our government open again on behalf of the American people. They're only trying to please Donald Trump and stay in his pocket and have good favoritism with him because in 2026, all of those House seats, all 435 is on the ballot. And they already have a slim majority. I'm talking about a couple seats. They can't stand to lose no one. Democrats just need to hold to what they got and pick up a minimum of 5 seats. And they flip the control of the House, and then that spells sure enough trouble for Donald Trump in his lame duck seat presidency. They don't want that, and this looks bad for them. They already got a lot of bad rap on following their names, and because of all of the things that they're currently doing, or have done over the past 8 months, and they can't afford to have this tagging along too. This is going to be on the minds of the American people that they can't govern. They promised that they'll be able to work with the opposite side and the Democrats to compromise and be bipartisan, but they're not showing that. So, in other words, the American people already believe that the federal government lied to them. So they could continue to lie. Why believe what they say now? What can Republicans go back to their district and sell to their constituents of what they have done in Washington on behalf of the American people that was good, then destroy this country, destroy the reputation of this country, the democracy of this country, the very democracy that we hold true dear to. They are ripping it apart because of one man's rule and dictatorship. And that's what they're doing now. They're holding the American government hostage to get what they want for Donald Trump. They don't care if you lose. They don't care if I lose. They don't care if the American people lose. They just care that one man win, and his name is Donald Trump. It's not about immigrants. It's not about blacks. It's not about, the poor versus the rich. It's about one man and what one man wants. What can he champion and say, he did? Boast about only he did. And it shouldn't be that way. It should be about what an individual have served this country and did for the American people. Now look at how they treat our military, our service men and women, telling them what they can and they cannot do, being hostile towards them. And they are volunteering to serve this country that they love, and the land of the free, that we call the free. But it seems like the freedom is leaving us. And we're coming into the dictatorship. We don't know the next move that's going to happen, out of this White House. What they're talking about, what they're planning next. And I commend the Democrats for standing up to the fire. If they get burned, they got burned for a reason. But, they're standing up for the American people is what matters. And if we as American people can't see who's standing up for us and our rights and the services that, that we have worked hard for or we depend on, then we as an individual have a problem. We are lost. So I commend, Democrats for standing up, but I also say, and I wish that both sides will come together, work this out. You get to give and take. You can't just have the whole pie. I want to eat too. You want to eat. We all should be able to eat and not starve. We all should have the right to quality health care, regardless of how we look, where we come from, what zip code we live in. So let's come together, negotiate, and get the government back open. That's all we got to do. Be leaders. Be leaders. The Democrats have invited the Republicans to come on into the House. Sit down at the table. Let's talk. Let's work this out. And all the Republicans have done thus far is reject that invite and saying, I want you all to abide by what we have presented and proposed. Let's pass this and move on, and maybe we'll work on it in the future, which it may never happen. They are rubber stamping the presidency of Donald Trump. Everything he proposes is okay with them, whether they like it or not. They just have to get it done for one man. This has been Thursday's edition of the Uplifting Buzz podcast. I invite you, as always, to like, share, and subscribe on all of our social media platforms, and continue to share our podcast with your friends and audience. And until we meet you again right here on next Tuesday of Uplifting Buzz podcast, we say God bless you and thank you for locking us in.
You've been listening to another episode of Uplifting Buzz Podcast with Gary Johnson and Marcus Grove, where we bring you non-biased conversations that focus on all things happening yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Visit our website and share your thoughts and stay informed. Until next time, be blessed.